reason the Peacock wouldn't cover this topic would be
around the carbon footprint of their companies. Since then, I have witnessed.
Well, they'd probably be covering the other end of it.
And inflation both higher this year. But of course, rising inflation is stoking rising costs for a lot of companies as well. So in terms of a high growth, high inflation environment, what's the path of least resistance for equities?
Well, do you feel better taking it from a Japanese lord and their business models, or getting caught in the chin from American business and not playing the game pull through? But see, that's where the Mikowski and space line mathematics gets real friggin' frosty.
Out of the higher growth equities. So we have been looking at places like, as you mentioned,
obviously the bottom line is all people's, the Sunbucks or Starbucks, or which one, when you listen to the Starbucks CEO, is the foreign markets being better opportunities.
So you like the valuations of Japanese equities, but how does the earnings picture look to you in Japan?
At the end of it, they can only do the best dip for the PE ratio to differentiate frame rate at the highest probability to put together. I mean, it's not guaranteed to making a move or when that move to the fixed pin unless you're willing to take that kind of risk margin on that kind of system, which is crazy right now.
Passing along costs to consumers because they have dominant brands and they can maintain that pricing power, or through managing their bottom line through technology investment and doing other things that just enhance their productivity. Those are companies that
it doesn't matter where you do it. And I think that's fair about why the war doesn't work across the board the way it used to as far as the Boy Scout camp. I mean, really, nobody wants to blow up Times Square for any reason. Chinese couldn't go there, Japanese couldn't go there, Europeans couldn't go there, and everybody gets pissed off about not being able to deal with their vacation showing up, and so am I about, like, hey, look, you pull out cruise ships, Walt Disney from the worker crew about what they're going to do with their kids, you're going to make all kinds of hell. You got to pay the due and keep that beast on a leash. I'm not saying Disney's too far out, because most of that 3D engine stuff, whether it's Japan taking on kaiju or anything else,
focus on the zero tolerance around COVID and what that means in terms of economic activity. But we do think that China is poised for long-term growth. We see, the pullback in China as being an attractive entry point. So it's not just a Japan story.
Again, do I feel comfortable with businesses, any businesses pulling out as investors into American businesses that need structures against, and I don't mean this against XI in any way, I mean, can he, when the foreign exchange stuff turns over the dividend on spots of who owns stock and shifting their models around equally like ours, it's just bad efficiency. It's like got mixed up somewhere and the wires crossed to some short. But you have to think about that platform and the readjustment time frames. And again, what would be at the board today, given what the moves are? Because that's always been the move. There was always an up on a down for a short, and don't let anybody bullshit you. Otherwise, when new information changes it to a better index. Well, at least Penzrow type of space-time matter.
I'm particularly curious about your thoughts on the plans around running off that enormous balance sheet.
Yeah, so one of the things
when she's going to balance sheet and talking about inflation and the number of stocks they have as a holding, probably fine about not needing to switch over, but reconsolidating that carefully, not to upset our allies in other places and how we drop out and position the timing of that system into a hardened state, and hopefully that creates allyships of people just being not necessarily mistrained. The training in itself is hard. It's all math and stuff, which is a very hard subject, beta U, beta V, for the field theory and special relativity and quantum mechanics. Any path at the mechanical level, divergent if left in a matrix of some kind, or time crystal, or whatever the new trick is, new algorithm, housing. Rocket fuel, magnesium, batteries, there's a few different types of them nowadays. But like in the end of it, it's great when you can put money in that house, but we want to try to do that as our own standard to make sure we have a clean distribution of what that goes around. Then there's space. When you get into some crypto security analysis at the entry level where we mass out, and there's obviously some kind of learning curve and training index on the mining rates on that thing. So take first, take quality quantity.
Hey, it's Mindy. Downloading a movie up to